Now, what was your first job in audio?
It's tricky because before I graduated from sound engineering department, I have idea to start a mobile recording studio, and I was witnessing Polish National Radio having huge track, as well as Polish National Recording Company, which was the only institution specialized in phonography these days, and having huge crew, signing agreements before the recording and so on and so on. But I was a jazz fan, so when I was going to the club, nobody was doing jam session recordings at this time because it was too complicated. And I figured out that maybe I can buy small portable recording equipment, go to the basement of the jazz club, I can do recording, and I can press an LP out of this, and it was my idea. And actually, after I graduated 4th year, I was lucky to get American visa.
Okay.
And I came to the US, and it was my first trip to the US, and I was working for something half a year. Maybe I extended this for three more months because to buy my equipment. And so at this time I visited some studios in New York, the famous RCA Studio A, and was lucky to speak with people recording, for instance, Arthur Rubinstein. And because there were rumors that Arthur Rubinstein doesn't allow his recording to be edited, and they confirmed that. So it's and also at this time I was fascinated with quadraphonic, which was fortunate surround, and so I received some gifts from RCA, some LPs. They were recording in CD4 format. So I bought the equipment. I brought the recording and playback equipment and to Poland. And then after I graduated, I started recording. I started with jam sessions in a club. And believe it or not, one of my first recordings, which I published on LP, was jam session with Buddy Rich, because he was attending Jazz Jamboree Festival in Poland. And after the concert, they went to the club and they started playing. I was ready with my equipment over there because I was predicting that someone may come.
Right.
And it was Buddy Rich band, and I had the LP, which I have on my shelf for a long time. And after that, I recorded as a private recording studio, which at this time Studio Sound mentioned that there is a new initiative in Eastern Bloc that some sort of private recording studio exists there. So for 4 years, I recorded over 50 LPs on my own equipment. And in the meantime, I traveled to Los Angeles to best friend of mine who was living in here to buy new equipment. It was not still good enough for me. And after that, I went 2 years later, I came to the US again. And at this time, I cut on my private recording equipment Festival of Forbidden Songs. It was the festival celebrating first anniversary of Solidarity movement in Poland. And this material was smuggled out of Poland, and I published 2 LPs in the US. And right after that, martial law in Poland was imposed, and so I spent next 25 years in the US, perfecting my skills, buying new equipment, and I'm lucky, being in this great country, and meeting fantastic people, and being able to perfect my skills.
Right. So after that, you made a transition into speaker design. And correct me if I'm wrong, please tell me about this speaker right here.
Yes, this is one of them. But you know, I was perfectionist since I was a kid. You know, and that's why I dropped playing jazz, and at the same time when I was studying at sound engineering faculty, because you know, if I want to be the best, I have to select whatever I'm going to play and to practice. You know, or to spend my time on research and sound engineering. So. I was always looking for the best equipment possible for my own recordings. And at a certain moment, after my immigration from Poland, I was able to afford the best equipment, so-called best equipment in the world.
And it wasn't good enough for you.
It was not good enough for me because I grown on audiophile in audiophile community, and I noticed that sometimes audiophiles have better equipment to play back recordings than recording engineers making recording for them. So first of all, I noticed that audiophile equipment is using much better parts like condensers, like better integrated circuits, you know, vacuum tubes, or whatever was available. So I started modifying the equipment I had, and at certain point after years, I figured out that I hit the wall, and just reviewing recordings from the past. In my opinion, golden years of phonography are 60s.
Okay.
And starting with invention of phantom power, everything started with turning down, and we ended up with MP3 and this kind of thing. So it's. So I started thinking that we have to reinvent the wheel, to go back to the 60s and make this equipment, to redesign this equipment and to make it on parts available today. Of course, you know, resistors made in 60s are not comparable to resistors we can have today, or other parts, you know, condensers and maybe not all condensers, but at least most of them. But I started with loudspeakers because you know, I usually say that I'm only as good as a recording engineer as I can hear what I'm doing.
Yeah, of course.
And I was looking for reference speakers for years, believe it or not, attending AES shows, attending CES shows, stereophile shows, and this kind of thing, going from store to store, evaluating different kind of monitoring. And I couldn't find anything until I figure out that probably the only speaker I can trust is a speaker built by John Dunleavy. And at this time I purchased my surround set because I was always fan for surround recording and high definition surround. This is, you know, what I'm doing up to now. And so I purchased my first surround set, and actually happened that I had a possibility to do recording in Poland with Krzysztof Penderecki, famous Polish composer, as you know. And so I took the set to Poland, and then after that, I said, maybe I'll come back here. I'm not going to travel with a set of speakers over the Atlantic Ocean. So when I'll be back, you know, in the US, I will buy another set. And then I called John Dunleavy, and He said, Andrew, you know what? You know, I'm closing my factory. You know, I feel that I have to retire. You know, but I said, John, it's you know, I'm sorry for this. You know, you shouldn't do this. And he said, no, this time is over. You know, so I started panicking, John. So at least sell me some speakers you already built. You know, because I need them for my recordings in the U.S. And he said, you know, but I have only 2 of them, and you want to have 5, you know. But, you know, I have some parts. I can send you some parts. And I said, you know, send me whatever you can, you know, just. And he started,
Take it all.
He started shipping me parts, and then I started calling him to and ask him, you know, what should I do with this? Because I noticed that some crossovers are a little bit different. And after several telephone calls, John asked me, Andrew, if you are so interested in building speakers, why can't you build your own? I said, John, I never did that. Don't worry, I will help you. And this is, how we started our cooperation. Mm-hmm. And the highlight of this story is that at a certain moment, John offered me to give me one his anechoic chamber, worth maybe $500,000. It was the largest anechoic chamber in the U.S. And I was so sorry. I said, John, I don't have a real estate to I was at this time I was in the Washington D.C. area, you know, where real estate is really expensive, and he was in Colorado. And to transfer this, building, the whole building, it was, But at a certain point, when I started experimenting and measuring Dunleavy speakers, I figured out that some shortcuts. And I said, oh, yeah, maybe I can do this better, and maybe I can improve on this and that. I started measuring, listening, and I was considering Dunleavy SC5 as the best speaker ever built, as the best reward for me after all my research and after I built my first speakers, which was L707, was the review by Bob Katz for Pro Audio Review. And Bob said that this speaker can rival the best speakers ever built, including Dunleavy SC5. So.
Wow. That must have felt.
So I was in heaven.
Yeah.